This sangria has frozen solid.
Sounds like a personal problem.
It really is.
I mean, I like sangria. Wait, how? That shouldn't.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
That's not possible.
Well, she made it on Sunday. It's been sitting in the freezer since. I mean, it's not like a solid block,
Okay.
but it's like an icy.
Okay.
It's
See,
not,
that
it
now
doesn't
makes sense.
flow. It just sort of
Okay.
sits.
That makes far more sense because it's like it has alcohol in it that doesn't freeze. You can't freeze that.
Yeah,
so
well,
it
what
can't
are
be
you gonna
frozen solid. That would be a denial of the laws of physics.
do? Welcome to Aniki, the show about anime with two brothers. I'm Ben.
I'm John, but then
And this week, we're going through episodes 5 of Hyouka and Jojo.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 1, Phantom Blood.
Indeed, that one.
Episode 5, The Dark Knights, or The Knights of Darkness, because again, we have a weird issue where the in-episode
I like Dark
translation...
Knights because then we have the Batman tie-in.
Yeah, then you think it's Batman. It's not Batman. Why so serious, JoJo?
Actually, the one this week that's serious is not Jojo. It's Hyouka.
Yeah, Hyouka is full of the feels. So I warned you about the feels before you watched this episode. How did you react to the feels?
I guess we'll get to the feels later, but this one's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's
much heavier than the rest.
Some heavy stuff. Yeah, no, it's grim. I always forget how sad this episode is. Spoilers, it's super sad.
It is sad, but I got distracted by all the kanji stuff, so I might have spent an hour watching this one episode.
Oh, just to write down all the kanji details?
Yeah, I got really excited about kanji wordplay.
In what part?
A lot of names.
Yeah, the festival stuff.
Yeah, I got stuff written down. So
well, I'm excited. I do like kanji wordplay.
So where did we leave off last time?
Well, in episode 4, we left with our Scooby Gang of Chitanda Eru, last name Satoshi. I can never remember his last name. Well, they were all over at Chitanda's house discussing Hyouka and Sekitani Jun and trying to come up with a grand unification theory about Sekitani Jun and why he got kicked out of school.
Mm-hmm.
Because Chitanda needs to remember before he's legally declared dead in 6 months or something.
What was the theory they came up with?
The idea was as something happened to the school festival, Sekitani Jun stood up and defended it, but this did not get him in good graces with the administration of school, so they kicked him out, but they waited until the festival was over in order to kick him out.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So according to his theory, he left, Sekitani Jun left the school, semi-heroically, under his own volition and free will. There might be some holes in this theory.
Perhaps. But he doesn't think so by the end of it.
Yeah, by the end of it, he's pretty solid.
So it's episode 5. We pick up where the last one left
right
off.
Where we left off.
The two boys have left the Chitanda residence and are walking back through the rice
So are they going back to
paddies.
town?
I guess.
The boys? Are they back in town?
Not yet. Not quite. But it's
Make
raining and they're walking. Box Cello Suite number 1. Prelude is playing in the background.
They do like that.
It's very classy. And Satoshi's pining all about how at least one person's life was sacrificed for the Kanyasai.
Yeah, I pretty much put down Satoshi as being the king of bummers. He's just like a man sacrificed himself for the Kanyasai. That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, and Oreki seems a little burdened by all this information.
Yeah, he is a weary man. But even more surprising, Satoshi says, than somebody sacrificing their high school life for the Kanyasai is that Oreki would even bother to solve the mystery.
To which Oreki replies, that makes 2 of us.
Yes, he did not see himself in this position. He did not see that he would actually do it. And we get some more great stuff, because Satoshi brings it up that's like, dude, you've been working your brain overtime to solve all these dumb mysteries, and it's all for the sake of Chitanda. And Oreki just is like, sake of Chitanda, more like it's Chitanda's fault.
And Satoshi's like, well, tomato, tomato. You had your chance to flee, but instead you locked yourself in the bathroom to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
You could have just said, whatever, I don't care, and gone home.
Yeah. He was last in line. He could have just been like, yeah, sure, whatever they said. He didn't have to poo-poo everybody's ideas. He could have just agreed with somebody at some point and just not worried about it too much.
Mm.
So Satoshi sort of presses Oreki, and then we get some like hashtag real talk from Oreki.
We do.
Dude opens up here. He's like, I'm sick of sort of seeing how all of my friends can muster up energy.
He's tired of being gray.
He's tired of being gray. He's sick of not quite getting it. Like, just going through life sort of, not really wishy-washy, just he's like unable to care about stuff. And he feels like that's actually a problem with him. Like, he's being real honest here. So he sort of figured it's like, well, this is something that I, care somewhat about. So I might as well give it a shot to actually give something effort and give it my all. He says he's just a little tired of being gray. Satoshi is like, would you say that you actually wanted a rose-colored life? And Oreki's just like, maybe, man.
Maybe.
I have some deep talks for our pre-opening scene.
I should point out that while they're talking, the rain stops and a splotchy sun casts itself all over the rice paddies. The sky is an important element in this episode.
Yeah, we get some Kyoto animation in this that's like, here, have the background mirror the emotional turmoil of our characters. See how we do that? See how we're clever? And I mean, they're not wrong.
Well, they're very good with the visuals. And then we get the title card.
We get the title card, and then we come back to Oreki in his bedroom, still thinking over his discussion he had with Satoshi. And, like, I really feel for Oreki. He just cannot relate to, like, his high school buds who can, like,
or normal
care.
People.
Yeah, he just, like, can't care about the stuff that they get into.
He's sitting there pondering, rolling around on his own bed.
Oh, much like the ending. See, the ending shouldn't be the girls flopping around on a pillow. It should just be Oreki flopping around on a giant pillow. That'd be way more interesting.
It would be. But he's pondering, what in the world does rose-colored even mean? And as he's trying to figure out what it means to him, all these pictures of Chitanda keep popping in his head.
Yeah, and like he remembers his sister's letter about how she's not going to regret these experiences 10 years from now, and he's like, man, am I going to get my life 10 years from now? Like, some deep stuff. And he's like, man, I bet Sekitani Jun didn't regret anything. He's like,
maybe.
Really? Sure.
He's thinking, is it Chitanda solving things that don't need solved, or Sekitani Jun saving things that don't need to be really saved? And these are the things he's trying to contrast himself with.
Yeah.
But it seems more like that he wants to have a purpose rather than to maybe have, quote, rose-colored life. And he just doesn't recognize this yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor guy. Feel for him.
But then suddenly the phone rings.
And we get a call from Deus Ex Aniki. Tomoe Oreki calls up. And, we get like, we get some updates on her life.
Last time she was holed up in the consulate.
Yeah, she may have been accosted by muggers, and that could have been why she was holed up in a consulate, because she probably beat the crap out of some muggers in India. So Oreki starts being like, oh yeah, so we're getting ready for the Kanyasai, and like his sister's all Kanyasai. Why are you calling it by the taboo name? And we're like, what now? He's like, oh yeah, no, we've been researching Sekitani Jun, and she's all, oh, you mean that really depressing tragedy about Sekitani Jun? And he's like, huh? Now what now? What are you saying?
Wait, what? It was depressing. No, it was a hero, right? And then she's like, oh, wait, gotta go, bye.
Yeah, like, if you know stuff, tell me what it is. And she's all, lol, nope, I'm out. Bye. Nice talking to you. So.
Oh, she's a jerk.
Doesn't work. Oh, his sister. I think next time we see him, where's she going now? She gives a list
Sarajevo.
of where she's going to be next. Oh, Sarajevo, yeah.
Yep. So he goes back to his room, and now he's got like all of his research papers all over the floor. He's like pulling his hair out at this point. He's like,
yeah, like he's not just twisting.
Is everything wrong?
He is pointing it out. He realizes his theory is either incorrect or incomplete, and there's no way Jun's self-sacrifice for others would be a depressing tale, right? Like, that can't be the way. Like,
That's
he
right.
couldn't have regretted it. Could he?
He has a great line here. He's like, what if a rose-colored life becomes so bright it ruins your high school days?
Yeah.
Is it still rose-colored?
Yeah. He's like, burning too bright is not necessarily the best thing in the world.
And all of this stuff just weighs down on him. And suddenly he's like, you know what? I'm going to find out. And he just throws mantras to the wind.
Yeah, like, we're finally, like, we get great character growth here. He's like, he wants to find the answer after this mystery, not for Chitanda, but because now he's, like, honestly invested. Like, now he actually cares. So now he's going to sit down to actually solve what this is.
Yeah.
And by him solving it, we mean him asking somebody. But we'll get to that here in a minute. So we cut to the next day at school, where Oreki has actually called a meeting of Classics Boo.
Yeah. He is super out of character at this point. Nothing makes sense. Everything is a lie.
Get the topsy-turvy world, man. Cats chasing dogs, fish walking on land.
Yeah, what's going on?
It's all topsy-turvy all up in. But yeah, we get Satoshi and Ibara walking up the stairs being like, Oreki called this meeting? Like, that's not right.
Yeah.
And he's like, I have cracked the case. We're going to find out everything. We're going to fill all the holes today.
Yes, there's a very odd discussion going on about filling holes and facts.
Filling holes with Oreki and Chitanda, maybe?
Yeah, there's a lot of hole filling that's about to occur in plots.
OTP for life. Oreki starts off by saying, like, okay, so guys, we totally forgot about the fact that in Hyouka it says that Jun's story is not that of a hero. And Satoshi says that, yeah, we had all decided that was a subjective point of view and should be ignored. And Oreki says, well, we're dumb. That was a dumb thing to do.
Why are we assuming that it was his sacrifice to make?
Yeah, that too. They get into some wonderful verbiage. Yeah, there's some ambiguity with the word sacrifice here. It could have been that it was a self-sacrifice, like he himself sacrificed, or it could be that he was sacrificed. He was the sacrifice.
So the word they use in Hyouka is gisei, which means victim or sacrifice or scapegoat. But in general parlance, it's generally referred to only by oneself. So like, I'm going to give it my all, or I'm going to give up, my vacation for something.
I'm going to give of myself instead of myself give it up.
So Ibarra's like, wait, if you mean being sacrificed, like he's going to be sacrificed by somebody else,
kanji phrase,
then it's this other kanji. But it also means sacrifice and scapegoat. But then Chitanda pipes up and is like, whoa, wait, back in 1960s, gisei would have had both meanings. And it's only recently that these two different contexts have arisen. So back then, it was ambiguous.
Yay, Japanese, a language filled with no ambiguities whatsoever.
Exactly. So yeah, I might have nerded out on that one a little bit.
Hey, no, it's fine. Kanji nerding out is always fun. What did I find out? Oh, I was watching Mahot Sky Precure, and I was looking up like how Mahot Sky is actually like kanjied up. And I didn't know that like Maho or magic meant like demon law, and that's like awesome.
It's the best, isn't it?
It's demon law. Magical girls are demon law girls, and that's sweet.
Yeah, they are.
Either way, that is neither here nor there.
Yeah, so Ibarra gets all uppity, and she's like, well, if it's all about context, I guess we'll just never know without asking the writer.
We'll have to ask the writer. And Oreki's like, yeah, sure. No, that's exactly what we're going to do. And they're like, no, what now? It's like, yeah, we know who it is. It's the librarian. Isn't that right, Ibarra? And she's like, what? It's like, yeah. Her maiden name is this name here in the book. And I'm not going to go back and look it up because I butchered it the first time I tried to say it.
Koriyama Yoko, which is written like this, and this is also important.
Oh, here we go again. What with kanji? So, you say it's written like this, and you send me a picture of it, but our viewers at home cannot see that ever. Oh, it's got fish in
well,
it.
I'm gonna put these in the show notes, so that'd be fine.
for
you can just read
all
it
10 people who care. All 10
if you really
people
like
who
kanji,
care about how this is Fish
there.
River.
Yeah, so we got Thread Fish River.
Sure.
So that's her last name. That doesn't matter. But Yoko,
that's her new last name or old last name?
Koroyama is her old last name. That's her maiden name.
Sure.
So Yoko is what she kept. That's her given name. And the way it's written is really uncommon.
Oh.
Because
they do point that out in the show. Yeah, they do point out that
it means to bring up. Normally, it's spelled with either the kanji for sunlight or the kanji for ocean.
Oh, sure.
So she has like a pretty uncommon-ish and archaic name, which means Ibara should have picked up on that like instantly.
Yeah. In other words, for those of us who do not nerd out about kanji, basically it's Yoko spelled in an uncommon way.
Yeah. It would be equivalent like if someone nowadays, you're talking to Max, and you're like, oh, that's short for Maxwell, right? And like, oh, no, it's Maximus.
Yeah.
Like,
or Maximilian.
Well, okay.
Just things
or Maximilian.
You don't
Those things you sort of remember.
Yeah. So it's just spelled in a funny way, but in a unique way that Ibara not necessarily should have spotted out. But if you'd taken time to think about it, like Oreki actually did, then you would notice.
Well, plus, if we remember back to episode 2, I think, with the book, then she reacted really weird to the fact they were all in classics club. So that should have been tip off number 1 to everybody.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, they're gonna transform and roll out and go meet with her. And they're like, oh yeah, but we'd have to come up with a time and a place. It's like, already done it. Asked, planned, we're doing this. And they're like, oh.
And as they're marching out, Ibara sort of snipes. She's like, oh, don't you look excited, Oreki?
User's note, he looks exactly the same as he always does.
Except he responds, though. He's like, oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to remember how he says it in Japanese, because it's like sana. It's the, like, who knows sort of thing. It's the shrug.
Oh, yeah.
It's the slightly affirmative shrug, if you want to get real technical. And then we get our commercial break. Did you write down the quote for today's commercial break?
No, I haven't written down any of the quotes for the commercial break.
Neither did I. Should probably do that. They always do like a quote from like a classic, a poem or a bit of classical prose for their little bumps.
I figured that was going on, but I figured if I looked those up, it'd take another hour.
It'd be another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I wouldn't come back up from that. So anyway, they all meet in the library.
Yes, it's time for the tell-all interview.
First of all, Oreki asked Yoko if she wouldn't mind confirming that she actually is the person who wrote this preface to Hyouka.
We're in the accusing parlor phase of this arc.
Indeed.
So, hold on. As an aside, this is barely relevant, but it's actually very fascinating. My wife recently read the very first Poirot novel, right?
Oh, good.
Yeah. And Poirot is where we basically first get the trope of the accusing parlor, where we get everybody together in like a room of the house and we go over all the facts and we accuse somebody. Well, she got like a special edition of the first book that has like the last accusatory scene, the way it was originally written, and originally it was all done in a courtroom.
Oh.
But the editor was like, well, that's kind of weird. Can you change that? So Christie changed it to basically the same scene, but just in, the parlor of a house instead.
Does he say J'accuse in the novels? I forget. Since he's a little Frenchman.
Belgian. He is Belgian.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Very important. But yeah, so the reason why they're basically like a courtroom but not is because originally they were concepted as like courtroom scenes, but they sort of backed off.
That's really funny.
But this is not an accusing parlor, this is the accusing library.
And Yoko grabs the preface and is like, oh, this thing, is it still around? She's like, well, if you're bringing this up, I guess I know what this is all about. You want to know all about the movement.
But I like how she's like, you guys are so young, why do you even care?
Yeah.
She had honestly thought everybody had forgotten by now. And Oreki points out that if Chitanda wasn't a curious mongrel, they never would have known or cared.
And she's like, wait, curious mongrel? He's like, oh, sorry. I meant curiosity monger. Obviously.
Like, that's so much better.
Chitanda doesn't like either of those statements.
Yeah. Either way, we get some reminiscing about Sekitani Jun and, wouldn't it be nice if we could see him again? And then Chitanda's a super Debbie Downer. Like, yeah, he's been missing in India for 7 years.
Yeah, he's probably dead.
They're all really sad. Basically, it's the most important Japanese emotion, mono no aware, which is the best. Or, as we say in English, melancholy nostalgia, which no one actually says in English, but...
The passing of things.
Yes. It's my favorite emotion, and it is the Japanese favorite emotion.
It's basically emo.
Well, it's not quite emo, but I mean, I suppose.
It's the closest we have, I think.
Melancholic nostalgia is how you translate it if you really want to.
Yeah, it's basically the feeling you get when you go on Reddit and someone posts, hey, remember when Ninja Turtles were cool? And
Well, not quite.
Yeah, those were the days.
That's just nostalgia. It's got to be sadder than that.
Oh. You know how there's never going to be any more Batman the Animated Series?
See, now that's more correct. Or the sort of feeling you have after you watch Fate's Day Zero, and you're like, man, if only it had a sequel. And you're like, oh, it does, but it's oh. It's sort of along those lines.
Yeah.
It's why we get depressed at looking at a cicada shell. I was thinking, no joke, I was thinking of that word in Japanese before I could get my mind to flip into English.
Higurashi?
No, not Higurashi. Utsusume. Or Utsu... Yeah, the Japanese name for cicada shell. I don't know why that popped up first, but it did. So we're not going to worry about that. Either way.
Yes, back to sad stories.
Yes, we get back to the sad story. What I like here is that Satoshi is like, okay, so one of the things we really want to do here, Library-san, because that's what we're going to call her this whole time, because they don't like learning more names. I'm just going to call her Library-san. Is that Satoshi's like, what we really want to see is how close Oreki's theory is. Because Satoshi just loves to show off Oreki's stupid ability.
Which is a little weird.
I know, right? He's like so proud of his friend by proxy. He's like, I want to see how close Oreki was. You should be impressed by my good friend, Oreki.
Is it that, or is it like when you have a friend that can do this stupid trick, and every time you meet new people, you're like, hey, do that thing.
Do that thing
you do.
No, that's
dance.
That's about what it is. So we move to the library's office. This is where we're going to get the true accusing parlor. We have a little bit of a break where it is implied that Oreki has shared his theory. Library-san is like legit impressed that Oreki was able to get so much from so little.
Yeah, because she's got all like 4 pieces of paper that they were working off of. And she's like, you got that from this? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, he's like, she says that almost the entire theory is spot on. Because he's like, so are there any major holes? Or are we not right? And she's like, yeah, no. Like, it is pretty much what happened.
So Oreki only has one question.
Well, 2.
Really just
one big
one.
question.
And it boils down to, by whose will was Sekitani Jun sacrificed?
Yeah. Did he leave the school with the pride at the pinnacle of a rose-colored life? Or was it something a little darker? And I like what Yoko says immediately. And she's like, wow, it's like you can see right through like the whole thing. Like you can see through like the entire charade of the student body pulled all those years ago.
And if anyone can do that, it's him, because he already sees through the whole rose-colored thing.
Yeah, like immediately. All right, so
then we get
some
go. Truth laid down.
Now we get the true story from someone who was there. The Kanyasai, I'm just going to call it that for narrative convenience. It was, in fact, a huge deal. It was like a 5-day-long rowdy party.
Yeah, and it was 1968. They had the Beatles. They had, all the things that you associate with the 60s and teenagers.
Yep, all going down for a whole week. Like, no classes, just this festival. And the principal that year finally put his foot down and was like, okay, look, getting a little out of hand. And he's like, we should shorten the festival from 5 days to 2.
He does give a strange reason for this. This
is like a weird euphemism.
It's very Japanese.
Yes, it's a very Japanese strange euphemism.
Because he doesn't come out and say we need to shorten it from 5 to 2 and tone it down. He says we mustn't content ourselves with being a deserted village's temple school.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure is.
And this just threw everyone into a tizzy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, if that happened here, everyone would be like,
huh?
What?
I'm pretty sure what he's saying here is like, yeah, sure, we're a legit deal here in this town because we're the only exciting thing that happens all year. But, we should take it a little more seriously than just a week-long party thrown by the local high school.
Yeah.
Which is, legit. And as Oreki sort of surmised, no good came of this, and the school exploded. There were posters,
Even
there were
Yoko
speeches.
She says, or Library-san says that with retrospect and perspective, that they were all just petulant children.
Yeah.
And none of this should be celebrated.
Yeah. So the way my translation said was, Satoshi is like, wow, it sounds like you guys were a pretty big deal. And she says, we were more like children deprived of a toy crying to have it back. And I was like, wow, she really sees hindsight's really 2020. She's like, does a really good job of being like.
And it's interesting because even after she says that, Ibarra is like, no, that's you guys needed that. I'm like, yep. There's a lot of difference in perspective here.
Yeah. And she does say, well, at the time it was important, but in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't.
It's like 3 days of not school.
Yeah. So basically, the movement back then was starting to crystallize, but nobody was going to stand up and actually take a leadership responsibility because, you could probably get expelled and get in mega trouble. And since no one was willing to take leadership of it...
How does Sekitani Jun get involved?
Well, pretty much he got the short straw. The shadow leader of the organization that be just pretty much elected Sekitani Jun as leader of the movement.
Mm-hmm.
The school just sort of got together and was like, good job, Sekitani Jun. You get to be head of the movement. But he really never was. There was somebody behind the scenes whose name actually really never came out.
And at first it was okay.
Yeah, the movement worked. They did some dumb stuff. They boycotted classes, but
then they started holding bonfires in the courtyard.
Yeah, this is a very Japanese thing to do. It sounds a little weird to us because we never really do that. But that's a big thing in Japan when you have a big celebration or a protest or something. You just have a big bonfire. It's not supposed to be destructive or anything. It's just like a night rally. It's also
not generally supposed to be quite so near the school.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be out in a field somewhere, not next to the school building.
Yeah. And what happened one night is they were having one of these bonfire rallies / demonstrations, and a fire started in the martial arts center at school.
The dojo building from episode 1.
Yep.
That
burned to the ground.
Chitanda was looking at.
Yep. Completely burned to the ground. And, well, this sort of cowed the students because they could never justify this ever happening. It was way out of hand. And notably, the powers that be were not happy. They were pretty pissed.
They didn't call the police.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get the police involved, but they decided that June was going to have to be expelled for this. And the whole student body had zero guts.
Yep. They were like, yep, okay.
So basically, he was expelled because nobody else stood up to take responsibility.
For the entire movement.
Yeah.
The students let him be a fall guy.
The answer to Oreki's question, was it a rose-colored life, or was he sacrificed for the greater good, quote unquote?
Yeah.
The answer is both and.
Yeah. He was like...
Because he could have given people up.
Yep.
But he didn't.
He didn't. So it was a bit of a yes and no, but mostly no. Yeah, so that, after she tells that story, everybody's just like, wow.
Well, crap.
It's harsh. Especially when she follows it up to, so the movement worked, we got our 5-day festival, but then 3 years later it was shortened anyway, so now the Kanyasai is just 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So Ibarra pipes up. One of the things she was really curious about was the cover of Hyouka with that crazy, rabbit dog picture.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, well, is that what it is then? With, the dog being the administration, the rabbits all sitting around looking are the students, but the rabbit taking on the dog in the middle is Sekitani Jun. And she's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yep, that's it. It's the whole story in one frame.
In one image. And then they also bring up that must be why the martial arts center, the dojo Chitanda was looking at the beginning, looks older than everything else. It's because that part of the school was rebuilt right after the fire in the 60s, where the rest of the school was rebuilt 20 years ago because it was much older.
Mm-hmm.
But they left the martial arts center alone because it had been recently rebuilt.
The whole time, it should be pointed out, Library-san has been using the word bunkasai.
Yes, just cultural
the celebration.
festival. She has not been calling it kanyasai.
And Satoshi is wondering, is it called kanyasai for Sekitani Jun? Because you can read his name in kanji, Sekitani, or Kanya.
Yep.
And she's like, yep, that's it.
So way back in episode 2, it's not that it's kanyasai because it was shortened over the years, but because it was another way of naming the festival. Basically, the festival got commonly named,
colloquialized.
There we go, as Sekitani's festival, basically, since he quote unquote saved it. But that name was taboo in the Classics Club because they knew the story. They're like, no, like June would not want that because, you know, he was sort of sacrificed for it, but not in a way he would have really liked.
And then we get to the ultimate question. So why is the anthology called Hyouka?
And honestly, Yoko, Library-san, doesn't know. It was being written by Sekitani, and he forced the school, Classics Club, to name it that, which was very unlike him, he said. She says. She says this, and, like, Oreki's, like, losing it. She's like, really?
He's like, no, you seriously don't know? None of you
and
know
he's,
this?
like, really mad. Like, visibly shaking that nobody can get this.
He's like, it's just a stupid pun.
Yeah. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, it was Sekitani Jun trying to make sure his feelings would get passed down. And seriously, nobody understood what he was doing. That sucks. And everybody's like, what do you mean? Like, tell us what it is. And he's like...
It's like, what's it mean in English?
And they're like, yeah, ice cream?
It means ice cream.
Yeah, like, obviously.
And then everyone gets it, except for
slowly,
Chitanda.
Slowly everybody gets it. And when they get it, they make miserable faces. Like they just get sucker punched in the gut.
And Chitanda's like, no, wait, I don't get it. What's going on? So he writes it down on a piece of paper and passes it to her.
Yeah.
And suddenly she remembers everything.
And starts crying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We get a series of flashbacks where she remembers. She remembers that she went to ask her uncle what Hyouka meant. Her uncle, of course, being Sekitani Jun. And he told her he didn't tell her what she meant. He told her that she needs to be strong when she gets older. Because if she's too weak, there will come a time when you're not even able to scream. And you would be alive, but dead.
And then there's like the most disturbing scene in this whole show so far.
It's really good. Yeah.
With this boy who's running away from his classmates, but then a dog, being the administration, grabs him in his teeth, and suddenly he's a rabbit in school clothing. And he turns around, and all the other little bunnies are all closing their eyes and not looking.
Yep.
But then the bunny rabbit bares his teeth and sinks them into the dog, and it's a fight to the death.
Yeah, a recreation of the cover of Hyouka. Like, it's a really great piece of animation. And, like, Chitanda is crying, and she just turns around.
Realizes, she's like, the reason I was crying is because I realized he meant there will come a time when you'll be alive, yet dead. And that terrified her.
Yeah. Like, it's just, like, it's so harsh. The show got so dark so quick.
I will point out, though, that while they're having this conversation and they're having like a super heavy time, the sky outside, the sun has set and the sky has become super rose colored.
Ooh, I didn't notice
saturated.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. Great pickup on that one. But she turns around still crying, and she properly thanks Oreki. And when she turns around,
I'm just lucky. And she's like, oh yeah, just lucky, right?
Yeah. And when she turns around, you get to see what he wrote on the piece of paper in English. And it says, I scream. And it's like, wow.
Oof. That's heavy.
Yeah. Like he named the annual like a bad pun on just like all this pent up frustration that he could never let out. Oof.
Yeah. And so after that,
After that chipper note.
Yeah, they go back to writing the anthology and putting this story as the anthology, like basically summarizing what happened 45 years ago.
It's going to be the headline story. Well, on a lighter note, we get this thing where, you know, they're all sitting there talking about the anthology, and Ibara-san has laid it all out. She's like really good at formatting and has laid it out. And Chitanda asks her how she learned to do this so well. And she gets really shy and fidgety, being like, oh, well, you know, I learned how to do these stuff. Like, could it be because she's in manga club?
No.
And has written some doujinshis. maybe some scandalous doujinshis featuring Oreki and
some
Chitanda.
BL mangas
are all true OTPs of Oreki / Chitanda. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah. Either way, Oreki is totally tasked with writing the story of Sekitani Jun. And Oreki's like, man, it's longer than everything else. I don't really want to. And Chitanda's like, I'll do it. And everyone's like, no, you will not do it. You will make Oreki actually work.
Him.
You must actually make Oreki do stuff, or he won't. So he has to.
So I do like the scene after that, though, where he and Chitanda are walking home after the little meeting. And he's agreed to write it.
Yeah.
And Chitanda, I forget exactly how it goes.
Well, she asks him, it's like, man, you really didn't have to. You didn't really have to write it. But he's like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. The bigger question is not, why did I decide to write this? It's, why did you actually relent and ask both Ibara and Satoshi for help? And she says, well, she thought of all of the work that they were going to have to go through to make this happen. And if it didn't end in any memories for anybody, it would just become a history nobody remembered. And that would actually be the worst. And then we get something really interesting. Oreki actually relates to that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Oreki doesn't relate to anybody. Well,
but it
he
is
relates
OTP, so he has to relate this to her.
He relates to Chitanda.
Oh, yeah.
OTP for life. And then we get another cut, and no, the episode is still not done. We cut to Oreki writing a letter to Oreki Tomoe Dono. Did you catch that?
I caught that, yeah.
Yeah, he's addressing it to Master or Mistress Oreki Tomoe. Like using the highest honorific available to address his sister. And that's awesome. So he's like, writing her a letter to give her a status update on what's been happening with Classics Club.
And it boils down to, hey, that advice you gave me was actually pretty cool. Some pretty cool stuff happened. Learned about Sekitani Jun. And he starts thinking while he's writing it. He's like, could she have
Could she?
No.
No way. Because he's like, how much did you know about Classics Club history when you made me join? And, this finding out the story of Sekitani Jun has made me sort of think about my life in a different way. And it's almost as if you knew that if, and then I would.
That's a little creepy.
Pretty sneaky, sis.
Yeah, so he just signs off.
That's nope, that's a reference to a very old commercial with There Diagonally. You know that ad, right? Pretty sneaky, sis.
I think I do.
Really, it's classic. It's the Connect 4 ad.
Oh yeah,
I got you. What? Where?
There's that
there,
nostalgia.
Diagonally. Pretty sneaky, sis. It's up there with You're a Real Ball Buster, honey. With the Ball Busters ad.
Why are you dredging up all this stuff?
What? It's great.
All these memories.
Well, with the writing of this letter to Oreki Tomoe Dono, we officially in the episode we get our young girls flopping around on pillows, which should actually be Oreki flopping around on a pillow, being pensive about his rose-colored life. But all for naught. And we get a slight preview of next week's episode, which is going to be the mystery of why the teacher yelled at his class.
It's a bit of a down.
So after
down the heavy scale from where we are now.
So after the heavy hashtag real talks that comes in Hyouka 5, we get something a little bit of a lighter fare next week with why was the teacher mad. So
I will say that for what it is.
Yeah.
The High School Slice of Life show, it is actually pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of shows, I mean, it's like, I sort of take the librarian's take on this. It's like, yeah, there were a bunch of children, some people did dumb stuff, live and learn. So I think I'm approaching this episode like she is, whereas I feel the intended audience is approaching it more like Scooby-Doo and the gang.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, life. Jeez.
Yeah, but I think it works both ways, because even Sekitani Jun as an adult, he was an adult when he was retelling the story to baby Chitanda.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, man, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have let that happen. So, I mean, it's sort of both ways. I think it's effective on both levels. In the same way that watching a Christmas story when you're a kid, you, like, relate to, like, the kids going on. But when you watch it when you're old, you're like, man, those parents know what's up. Have you rewatched Christmas Story, like, anytime soon? See,
I will be honest with you, I have avoided it my entire life.
See, and this is reasonable. What you guys at home need to understand is my brother and I are from Indiana. And, well, look, I don't know if you quite realize that Christmas Story takes place in Indiana, but it does. So every year in early December, when all of the school classes stopped having real things to do, we'd start watching videos. And in every class, we watched the same video for a week
you had it
straight.
Worse than us.
Oh yeah, like every class put on Christmas Story.
Oh no, in junior high, they gave us a choice. The choice was you can either go to the really awkward Christmas dance, or you can go to the auditorium and watch Christmas Story. That was it.
Oh yeah, no, it's like awful. Like it's you see it a lot, and I did not watch it or want to feel nostalgia for it until I moved out here to Seattle, and now I'm like, oh yeah, now I can watch it and I like it. It's like
I'm sure I've seen the whole thing if I include all the bits and pieces,
just chopped up into bits. But yeah, it's way more. You relate to the adults way more when you're old.
Yeah, that's how this episode is.
Yeah, you relate to it both ways. And
I also have this weird feeling. It's like this is way more than I expected from Hyouka.
Oh yeah,
but this is coming episode 5, and there's 17 left.
Yep.
So I have this sort of pensive feeling about that.
There's still some really good episodes. There's some really great character drama still yet to come.
That's good, because so far the only character that has really developed any meaningful way is Oreki.
Yeah, well, that's because these first couple episodes have been like light novel 1, where we do get some development with him. And granted, he's the most flawed, so he's who's, especially from a Japanese point of view, he's the most flawed because he's like reclusive and halfway to Neat Town, USA.
Yeah.
So he has to move the most. It's sort of like saying Bob Cratchit doesn't go through too much character development in Christmas Carol. It's like, well, no, it's because it's not really about him. But yeah, so we get next up after Why Was the Teacher Mad? We get the 2-parter about the student film that somebody's making, and that's really good and has some great character movement for Oreki as well. Then we start getting some good Satoshi character development in there. After that, with some other stuff, and some Ibarra character moments with a little arc about Valentine's Day and some other stuff.
I assume Chitanda will have an arc at some point, because
I mean, this is also kind of her arc, but yeah,
because she still has the feeling of manufactured waifu, just sort of.
No, that's fair.
Over her.
No, she gets some good episodes of her coming into her own as like an heiress, not just which means she gets killed by Sephiroth. Spoilers, because she's an heiress.
Or does she become part of the Yakuza and finally take up her father's sword
as an heiress?
Oh no, I was going with Black Lagoon.
Oh, see, I was going with an heiress, as in like Aerith, as in.
I got it.
Yeah, okay. I just need to make sure. Okay, no, that's reasonable. But no, we get some of her moving in. Growing up on her own, so
that's good.
So there is much good still to be had. So have you been watching any other anime before we move on to Jojo?
Let's see. We finished the Black Lagoon. OVA,
Okay. How was that
which
anyway?
is
Other
it
than dark and
is
violent.
it's the best arc of all the arcs.
Oh wow.
But unfortunately, it's only 5 episodes long, and it focuses more on the Loveless family and
Sure.
just Rock being sort of Machiavellian.
Ah.
But it doesn't really show him being Machiavellian. It just shows him he's come up with a plan, right?
Yeah.
Then he sets the pieces in motion at a specific time, but he spends the rest of the time sitting on the sidelines. So his bold move was to put a certain piece in motion once, and he figured out how it would go from there. But
sort of like the good and bad thing about Attack of the Clones, the Star Wars movie, is sort of the same thing. It's like, you see how the Emperor wins, but, you know,
it doesn't really do much.
It's not that exciting to just watch a politician maneuver it, so no matter how a war goes, he wins both ways.
Yeah, so, I mean, the ending of it, I won't give anything away, but the ending of it, people are mad at him, but it doesn't really feel like as much anger as they have is justified, given how not much he did.
Sure.
So,
well, I have the new Precure is out, so of course I have watched the new Precure. Let's
hear about your demon law.
Mahot Sky Precure 1.
Did you really not know what Maho meant?
Well, I mean, I knew, but I just never bothered to look up the actual kanji definitions.
Oh yeah, Ma is the only. Well, it's one of the only level 1 kanjis I actually know by sight.
Yeah, no, I tend to not look up that stuff.
There's some Care Bears in this opener.
Oh yeah, I love it. The lovely item this time is not ridiculous because it's just a teddy bear.
He's a teddy bear.
Yeah,
and it's Tiny Snow Fairy Sugar.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know what's up with her. She's not in episode 1.
And then they grow up into panty and stocking with garter belt.
I like it.
What is going on?
They're witches. I love witches. So this is Mahot Sky Precure, and it's got witches in it. I love witches. So we got witches. So the Precures I've seen in the past is I've seen a decent amount of Heart Catch. And I've been watching Go Precure, of course, because of Glitter Force. But
I think I've only seen the first one.
And that's reasonable.
And that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. But this is the newest season, and it is... Oh, wait, no, it's not Go Precure. Sorry, Go Precure was last year's Precure. I watched Smile Precure, not Go Precure. I was confused because both of them have a team of 5, so it seems reasonable. But yeah, they're witches in this season, and I'm a sucker for witch tropes, so...
Really?
I like witches. Oh, I love witches. The 2 best Halloween monsters are Witch and Sexy Witch. Those are different things. We know this because of Cabin in the Woods, right? They have that billboard of all the horrible things that can happen to you in the cabin in the woods, and they have witches, and then later on the board, sexy witches. These are 2 different things. It's like an elephant and an elephant seal. They're completely different.
I'm trying to find the logo of this show in the op, and I can't find it.
What? Like the Maho
like the super logo. Oh, there it is. I found it.
Yeah. The little teddy bear turns it into a bunch of different types of candy. But no. I love witches. So if it's a Precure that's got witches, I will say I like their outfits a good amount. Their hair is a little silly, and I think their outfits could do with a few less gratuitous bows. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is made for like 8 to 12-year-old girls. So I guess
you need all the bows.
I shouldn't complain too much. I shouldn't go all brony on this and be like, you should make ponies specifically for me, a 29-year-old white male. Who should tell you how to have your show for 8 to 12-year-old girls.
I don't know anything about this show, but I already appreciate the fact they completely change like body shape when they transform.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while.
Really
where
useful.
What they do, what Precures tend to do is they tend to sort of age up when they transform, which is always nice. I like how they do that because it sort of fulfills a better fantasy for the watcher, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm 6 years old. Oh, but when I transform, I'm like an adult. And it's like, that's cool. Also, the ending for this Precure is really good. Since there's only 2 in this ending, they can animate it really well. Like, they actually have the CGI girls singing. Like they lip synced it. Like it's really great.
Oh, it's not a Miku Miku dance this time?
I mean, it's always a dance.
No, I mean like
they also
using
sing
Miku Miku dance. You can tell.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know what they use for it, but I mean, they're well known for their big choreographed dances for their endings.
Mm.
Also, they use their brooms as guitars, and it's adorable.
Speaking of witches, I assume you've seen Little Witch Academia by now.
You know, I've still not. It's supposed to be really good.
Oh my goodness, it's the best.
Yeah, I've heard it's really good. It's like, what, a short movie or something?
Yeah, it's... You remember I talked about that Spider Girl a while back, which you still need to watch. It's the same...
Oh, same guys who did that?
It's not the same guys, but it's the same organization. They go out...
Same.
It's a young animators thing.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah.
But this particular one is done by Trigger, which is the same guys who did
that would
Kill
explain
Kill
a lot.
And previously did Gurren Lagann.
Oh, speaking of Gurren Lagann, hold on. Let's see if I can find this. So you know Overwatch, right?
Yes.
Let's see here if I've got it. So they have released a bunch of new skins with the re-release of the beta, and there's a guy who's basically in a giant mech suit, and they gave his mech suit. Huh?
Did he
no,
give him a big drill?
but he gets the
sunglasses.
No, the tummy face. He's got the Gurren Lagann tummy face. Check it.
He does have that tummy face.
I know. That's awesome.
Oh dear.
It's
come to think of it, the outfits in Kill la Kill have this face.
Yeah, same sort of deal. I think they just are really on that design aesthetic. But yeah,
I mean it works.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does.
Let's see, and then the wife and I just started watching Moribito like literally 3 hours ago.
Yeah, Moribito is really good.
We've seen 3 episodes, and it's really good.
Yeah, no, it's really solid. It's like ultimate mom show. Like it's a great like strong female character that plays into both sides of what a strong female character should actually be, which is an effective fighter, and also like she is 100% female. She's not a masculine action hero who happens to be a girl. Like she is very much feminine. She is super mom. It's really great.
Yeah, we haven't gotten too much into her character yet, but I'm talking about like the setting, because the way they fight, the way they move, the way they react to their environment is all really realistic. And every once in a while, I caught myself going, "Oh yeah, this is animated, isn't it?"
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's very immersive. It's Seirei no Moribito is really great.
So we'll be watching more of that.
Oh, I'm glad, because that show is really sweet. I was also thinking that I actually, as much as I recommended you watching From the New World,
yes,
don't, and maybe we can do that after we're done with Hyouka.
Possibly.
Because
I was also thinking, depending on when it comes out, maybe doing a side show about the new season of Crystal.
Wow.
Because I have to rant about that to somebody.
I mean, if you want.
But we'll see. I don't know when it's coming out. Just March.
Soon, TMI, I imagine.
Yeah. Oh, and they finally decided when Heaven's Feel the movie is coming out.
Oh?
Yes, they gave us the dates of sometime between March and May.
Isn't that useful?
It's more than we've got.
I mean, I suppose.
Actually, it's not that great, because last summer they said, "Oh, it'll be out in September," and then
before the end of the universe, it will exist.
It'll come out the same time Half-Life 3 does.
Yeah, I guess. All right, so let's talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 1, Phantom Blood, Episode 5, The Dark Knights, or The Knights of Darkness.
Dark Knights. Definitely Dark Knights.
Sure, we can go with Dark Knights. The nights are dark and long in JoJo-verse.
Do we actually have the Japanese version of the name?
I assume it's the same thing. I'm sure it's like Yami no Naitsu.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Now I have to go look.
You say that, and I'm probably going to be right. It's probably going to be like Yami no Naitsu. It's probably not even going to be like Bushi or something.
Plex has the friggin' English name.
Or it could be like Zadaku Naitsu. Like, I mean, it could be anything, and I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no. Okay, whatever. So we open JoJo episode 5. Coming off the heels of last time, where we
which
had
was awesome.
Jack the Ripper getting his entire brain exploded
his
by
entire brain exploded.
JoJo's overdrive punch through a wall,
after he
which
popped
ruined
out of a horse.
both Jack the zombie and his sweet scissors.
And his sweet scissors. I'm sorry to say that this week's episode is nowhere near as amazing as last week's.
It's not. It's a little bit of a letdown, but it's still insane.
Yeah, it's still good, but like last week's is like it's gonna take a while to top Jack the Ripper popping out of a horse and then having his entire brain blown up while wielding those ribcage scissors.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow up on.
That's true.
So we open episode 5 with
hold on, JoJo Bizarre's Adventure Part 1, Phantom Blood, Episode 5, The Dark Knights.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Upon a small hamlet that is on a seaside, yet surrounded by mountains, called Wind Knight's Lot. Which, if you may recall, in the last episode, they're actually headed there. That wasn't the name of the tunnel they were going in.
Yeah, no, I knew that. Were you confused?
Well, I assumed since they said that and then they went into a giant tunnel that was way too big for its own good. I figured it was like a secluded robber's den inside of a...
No, it's a town.
Of a tunnel.
It's a town. They have to go through the tunnel to go through it because it's surrounded by cliffs on all sides except for its bay. Now, we are explicitly told this by a narrator.
The narrator also goes on to say that it used to be in the Middle Ages a knight training ground, but is now a prison of hard labor because there's a coal mine. Then he tells us that the population is currently 517 and soon to be doom.
Yeah, and doom will be upon them all here soon. And then the opening. Like, look at this quaint, lovely village of Wind Knight's Lot. It's a little bit like Australia. It was populated with criminals. The exact population is 517. And soon they will all die! Like, okay, fair enough. This is JoJo, sure. And then we get our sweet opening. Which I think I need to look at it again. And I want to say at the very beginning of that, they go through chronologically like all the JoJos. Like at the very beginning where they're like flipping through the manga pages.
I think you might be right because I think the finger in the sky is Stardust Crusaders JoJo.
Yeah,
with the
I
sweet
think so
glove.
too. So I think we actually go through all of them. So and then because we go all the way back to Jonathan Joestar, who is the first JoJo, which is why we're here at Jonathan Joestar, the first JoJo.
So this episode opens as the three amigos are walking through the fields that are being harvested by, I assume, just day laborers.
Yes, it is peaceful and idyllic.
Two of the three amigos are in, they're sort of on edge. That would be Zappelli and Speedwagon. They seem to be very, very wary, very jittery.
Well, Speedwagon's default setting is much like Satoshi is shocking pink. I'm pretty sure that that Speedwagon is quivering, I don't know, fuchsia or something. He is always nervous.
Meanwhile, JoJo is still wearing that amazingly stupid hat.
Not for much longer, though. Because a child, a young cut purse, literally catapults himself at our heroes, stealing their bag full of cash
before we get
monies.
to that, we have a really strange little scene where suddenly Zappelli has finger jabbed Speedwagon right in the gut. And he explains to JoJo, he's like, well, he was saying he wanted some Hamden energy and my finger kind of slipped.
Yeah.
And just nailed him in the gut.
Yeah. I don't know why that's there. I guess it's just like comic relief. I have no idea. They're just like, yeah, Zappelli sucker punched Speedwagon for reasons. You know, Speedwagon wasn't
I think he
feeling
thinks
well
he's sort of Zappelli thinks Speedwagon is just sort of like a coward.
Well, you know,
at this point.
Yeah, we do get some of that a little bit later on because Speedwagon himself.
So that might explain this scene
down.
In retrospect. But when you first see it, it's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, some creepy shadow guy is washing them, and then suddenly he cuts a rope and he catapults himself right at them.
Yep. He grabs their bag of cash monies and launches himself to the other side of a river that is to their left. Speedwagon flips out about this and is like, dude, that guy just stole all our money and all this, and how are we going to be able to do anything? And Zeppeli and Jojo just look on, arms crossed, looking impressed at this kid.
They're like, that kid is pretty cool.
He knows what's up. He should.
He has some moves.
We should hire him as our guide here in this town. Like, okay. Yeah. I mean,
well, he can lead us to something.
I mean, to be fair, last time Jojo was robbed, he teamed up with Speedwagon. So I mean, I guess he just thinks all criminals, once they encounter his gentlemanly ways, reform and become awesome and useful.
So he's kind of like Nanoha.
Yeah,
or he just sort of befriends people by beating them to death.
Or Usagi, who just solves all of her problems through being, friends with everybody.
Yeah.
Which always confuses me.
Friendship defeats everything.
That's the thing that just really bugs me. As good as Sailor Moon Super is, not Super. Yeah, no, it's Super. Why Michiru and Hikaru, why they're always like, you can't solve all of your problems with friendship. It's like, dude, she has literally solved all of her problems with friendship.
Yeah, for the last 3 seasons, actually.
For the last forever, she has solved all of her problems through friendship. So why would you be like, no, you can't use friendship this time. You have to kill her. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure she has to be friends with her and it will fix it. It always fixes it.
But Jojo is thinking along the same lines. If only he can make friends with everyone except Dio.
Well, you can't make friends with Dio. He is evil. He is stone cold bad news.
Well, he's not human anymore. He can't be friends.
Well, that's true. He can't be friends. He is not human. Speaking of not being particularly human, in order to get to the kid who's now across the river, Zeppeli and Jojo just, walk across the river using Hammond energy.
Oh, no. Jojo walks across the river.
Zeppeli looks like an idiot.
Zeppeli is walking like a goat-footed balloon man, skipping along the water
he is
like
awesome.
A kangaroo. I cannot describe the movement he is making better than that.
It's the fact that he tiptoes across while skipping. He skip tiptoes, but he's also doing this weird thing with his hands. I'm doing it in my chair at home, though no one.
Yeah, he's like a little bunny rabbit or something.
Awesome. I don't know why he's doing it. I have that he looks like an idiot, but then again, that is par for the course when it comes to Zeppeli. He constantly does things in the most silly way possible. I mean, the author knows that he wrote him to be the crazy kung fu master trope. So it makes sense.
He has succeeded
in just the weirdest way he possibly can.
What if the crazy kung fu master was a English aristocrat?
I guess. So they both get across the lake. Meanwhile, the little kid is halfway up the cliff, and Jojo's like, no probs, and he just punches the cliff.
He and Zeppeli have a conversation while the energy is going up the cliff.
Yeah,
asking
super nonchalant.
Whether or not that actually did the trick.
Yeah, is there going to be the right spot to knock this kid off the wall? Yeah, probably. Maybe not. I don't know. I just since punching a guy who popped out of a horse, Jojo is now master of all things Hammond energy.
I think I would be too after seeing a guy crawl out of a horse.
I mean, reasonable.
But this kid is crawling up the wall, and suddenly he just goes, "It shocked me," and falls off.
Shock! And just falls over. It's great. I like how everybody, the Futurama trope, you can't just have your characters say how they feel. That makes me feel angry. That is everybody in the show. They just constantly tell you how they feel. And you're really not that upset about it, because it just makes everything awesome.
I expect it. I demand it.
Yeah, no, you want everyone to tell you exactly what's going on, otherwise it's not awesome. So the kid falls off the cliff, and Jojo catches him, but then the kid seems to have, no idea what just happened or was going around.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, Zeppeli, I think there's something wrong with this kid. And Zeppeli's like, no, there's something wrong with everything around us. And suddenly they realize, oh, wait, they're standing in this giant graveyard that they failed to notice a minute ago.
Yeah, I know, right?
Also, the sun's gone now, so zombies attack.
Yeah, the sun goes down. Zombies come up from the graveyard. Dio appears on the cliff above it and says, the sun is gone and your lives with it. And it's like, yeah. Way to make an
So the best part about his appearance is Speedwagon has now drug himself out of the river somewhat and sees this sight. And he's like, I thought I was, but I'm totally not ready for zombies. And then he looks up at Dio, who has struck this amazing pose in front of the full moon.
Constantly, he's like, this.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that either. I might just check out.
Well, yeah, but he also says it's Dio repaid Papa Joestar's love with betrayal, and Speedwagon won't let him get away with it. I'm like, oh, that's cute. Mm-hmm. Speedwagon thinks he's a people. It's like, no, Speedwagon, what can you do? You can't do anything. You have no magical powers. You're just there to be shocked at everything.
No.
Yeah, zombies are coming up out of the ground, and Jojo, of course, doesn't want the kid to get hurt because, Jojo's a true gentleman. And he just, face kicks the zombie out of the way without even looking at it, and it's awesome. Mm-hmm. Zombies crawl out, and the kid's like, oh no, zombies are crawling. He's just like, yeah, whatever, kick, and just owns the zombie.
So I don't know if it's my translation or not, but let me ask you if you got this too. Zappelli then looks at Dio and to him, but he says, a man of such guile like Dio must not have the mask.
Yeah.
Since he can't operate during the day and uses children as bait and has an army of zombies, like a vampire would, he must obviously not have the mask.
I don't remember seeing that.
I was like, what? I mean, Zappelli's crazy, so it feels like something he'd say.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, no, I don't remember seeing that.
So I tried listening to the Japanese audio, and he's using so much man speak that I can't. I'm like, I don't know if there's a negative in there or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just know because a fight starts up and Big Man Z, as I have been calling him, says in English, "Hey baby," when he's calling out Dio, and it's sweet.
Yeah, that comes down here. So Dio beckons to the trio, saying, "Come and get me.
Come and get me."
The boy now reveals his name is Poco because that matters right now. Zappelli melts several zombies with his karate chop.
Yeah, like everybody does. The zombies are no big deal.
Yeah, Jojo reveals that he can zoom punch.
Yeah.
But then Zappelli gets up to Dio, and he says, Dio, this is the first time that we've met, so I'm saying this to the mask and not to you.
Yeah.
Hey, baby, you gonna fight from that perch or what?
Yeah, he's like, come down and fight me, big man. But I just love the, in English, hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
It's yeah.
Okay.
I love it so much. It's so great. It's are you going to stand up there on this rock or are you going to come and fight? And Dio's like, y'all are insects and lower creatures than me, so no, I'm not going to come down there.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the pinnacle of life, so... By the way, I only have one wound left to heal after my fight with Jojo.
This is sweet. He's like, yeah, after all my big fights with Jojo, all I have left is this giant scar on my tummy. And it's, and
Zappelli's like, impaled. How many lives have you taken to heal those wounds?
And Dio's like, I don't know. How many slices of bread have you eaten? And it's like,
and this just mortifies everyone.
It's like, yeah. He's like, Zappelli's people, you can't eat that many people. He's like, well, how many slices of bread have you eaten? I mean, it's no biggie, right? Do you count every time you have a snack? Because I don't count every time I have a snack. And just because my snacks are people, you think I would care? It's a total, M. Bison, it was a Tuesday moment, and it's sweet.
And then so Zappelli launches himself at Dio, and we get this super punching pose in front of the moon.
And Starlight Yellow Overdrive?
Yeah, well, Sunlight Hammond Overdrive.
Oh, see, I have Sunlight Yellow Overdrive, which is what he actually says, because they say all their attacks with color names now for reasons.
I guess.
And the colors are all in English.
Because they realized they had to use the same overdrive over and over and over.
Yeah, so now they have color modifiers. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. But they're like, oh, he's totally done it. He's fired his sunlight yellow stuff into Dio's arm.
He's like, whatever.
And Dio's like, yeah, well, I'm just going to freeze your arm now.
Yeah, because Dio has ice powers, I guess.
Oh, he explains how he does it.
Yeah, he does. Dio explains that since Hammond energy comes from blood flow, that if your blood is frozen in your veins, your blood can't flow, so it completely negates it.
Yeah, so all he did was he vaporized all the moisture in his arm, and that makes things cold, which froze your arm.
Yeah, it flash froze Zappelli's arm, because when...
He's not wrong.
It's true. I was like,
that's how that works, yes.
Yeah, the science checks out. As the pressure goes down, so does temperature. Well, I guess that makes sense, but I'm not sure how having perfect control of your body lets you control evaporation rates. But,
yeah.
I mean, he's Dio. All he has to do is, pose sexily at temperature, and it will fall for him.
Oh, yes.
Get it? Get it because it's a pun?
I got it.
Right? Because it falls for him because he's so sexy?
Yeah, he's really sexy.
See how it works? It's a good joke. You should laugh at it.
So anyway, Dio goes for the kill.
Oh yeah, he goes into he says smash Zeppeli's head like a vase.
But then Jojo sticks his hand in and saves.
Oh yeah, he
Zeppeli.
jumps all the way up an entire like Devil's Footstool style like 1,000 needles rock formation and just puts his hand in the way. Still with the kid on his back. Yeah, Poco is still there.
He is totally fine leaving Erina at home because that would be terrible. He doesn't want her to be involved. But this like 5-year-old, whatever, he's coming along for the ride.
I mean, to be fair, he's bringing the bigger complaint is why did he leave Erina at home but bring Speedwagon? Because I can guarantee you that Erina is more useful than Speedwagon.
Erina does not have amazing speeches.
Oh, that's
I should
true.
point out that so far the only person to call out the BS going on around him is
Speedwagon. Yeah. He's constantly like,
because he has several times where he just calls out all the BS.
Oh yeah, he's like, this is too much, but he doesn't say it in a nonchalant way. He is like so freaked out that crazy stuff is happening. Oh well. Well, Jojo blocks Dio. Dio's like, okay, that's just fine. I'll freeze both of your arms. So there you go.
Yeah, so Zeppeli kicks him.
Yeah, Big Z is like, this won't do. Dio is 5 times stronger than both of us put together. Jojo is our only hope, so he has to save Jojo from getting frozen. So he tries to spin kick Dio. This does not work as Dio snaps Big Z's leg in half with 2 fingers.
Yeah, he shoves his fingers into his leg and basically spears
and we get like a
half.
full right angle floppy like leg break. It is vicious.
And he throws all of them off of him. And they all fall like 500 feet and land on Speedwagon.
Yeah, it's fine.
So he is useful for something.
Yeah. What I do like here is they're both on the ground and they're totally like lamenting. It's like, oh, Dio's so strong. Like, we can't do anything. He can freeze us now. That's pretty harsh. And they're like, yeah, but only our Hammond energy can bring him down. And Dio, 5 miles up on a rock terrace, hears this and is like, oh, Hammond, you know, a breathing technique? Well, if you guys want to huff and puff, you should blow a fanfare for my victory. Dio is such a bad dude. I love everything he says.
His quotes are getting better and better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like he's like a frat boy. He's great.
Somebody needs to be trumpeting his fanfares.
Yes.
So he summons 2 Black Knights to fight for him because this current fight is way beneath him.
Dio says the fight is beneath him, and it works on both a figurative and literal level. Because they're literally on the ground while he's on a 1,000-foot terrace. And, well, you know, they're insects. So he summons up Caracas and Black Knight Blueford, which I am promised are real people.
I forgot to look them up, but I'm going to take this ridiculous show's word for it.
See, that's what I'm going with. It's like, I don't want to know because this show's like this show has to be historically accurate, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's got a pretty accurate description of what went on in 80s England now.
Yeah, I mean, this seems reasonable. So 2 knights pop up out of the ground, one of them lifting a boulder on one finger. Well, vampire knights, zombie knights, all the same thing as far as JoJo's concerned, I'm afraid. There's 2 knights pop out of the ground, one with a giant boulder on his finger, and on top of that boulder is JoJo. And then we get our commercial break.
Yep.
When we cut back, we get Dio explaining who these dudes are because we need to know.
Yeah.
And we
get the history lesson later.
But first we get a short history lesson saying that these are both knights from Mary, Queen of Scots, if I recall correctly, right? Right. Mary Stuart is Queen of Scots.
Queen Mary Stuart.
Yeah. That is Queen Mary, Queen of the Scots, right?
The arch rival of Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah. We get Speedwagon King of Bros because he is. Master Z is on the ground saying that Jojo can't possibly fight off both of these 2 zombie knights on his own. Because the zombie not only lifted a giant boulder with one finger, but then he breaks the boulder with one finger too.
Mm-hmm.
And Z's like, dude, if only my arm was warmer, I could like summon up some Hammond energy, heal my arm, and help out. And Speedwagon, like a bro,
he's like, well, how about my abs?
in the Arctic, people treat frostbite by putting wounds in a seal. So he lifts up his shirt and sticks Master Z's Sub-Zero arm on his own steaming hot abs.
Yeah, and we get this shot of the two of them now very intimately close, and Zeppeli more than once says Speedwagon-kun. It's just the weirdest,
that's great,
most surreal thing.
I mean, to be fair, his abs are hot, so they would warm up Zeppeli's Sub-Zero arm, right?
They definitely would, yes.
Okay, so meanwhile...
So we instantly cut to something else.
Yes, we cut back to the two knights fighting Jojo. Now, I can never keep straight which knights are which, so I'm just going to call the big, thick one Beefy Knight, and the small, scrawny one Bishonen Knight. Are we cool with that? I believe the beefy one is actually Caracas.
I do think Bishonen Knight is Bruford.
Yeah, Blueford.
And the other one's the other guy.
Is Caracas, I believe.
Yeah,
I'm calling it Caracas.
Concerned
I don't
with
think
is
that's how you
Bruford
actually
and
say
Bishonen in this episode.
I don't think it's actually pronounced Caracas, but that's a magic card, so I'm defaulting to that.
Fair.
So, it seems reasonable. Well, Jojo tries to zoom punch Bishi Knight. This doesn't work, as the Bishonen Knight wraps his hair around Jojo's arm and starts sucking out Jojo's blood with his hair.
Yeah, he basically has metal hair.
Yeah, we're dealing with the creepy prehensile hair trope here. Now, the big guy pulls out a sword that's basically 8 times bigger than Jojo and moves in to kill Jojo.
It's a short knife. Well, it would normally be a short knife, but it's the size of a Buick. And Speedwagon has the best line.
Do you have the exact quote?
I do.
Okay, good.
He says, "The size of that thing chills me more than your arm does."
Yeah,
Plus,
it's great.
Their black hair and their faces.
Yep.
Then a close up on Speedwagon.
Yeah.
They have secrets.
They do. They have secrets.
It's like, thank
in
you,
other
Speedwagon.
news, in other news, Speedwagon, guys that pop out of horses are bad news. So here we have it. Here's words of wisdom by Speedwagon. We have people that pop out of horses are bad news, and people with giant swords and black hair have secrets. Straight talk from REO Speedwagon.
Hooray!
So, as promised, we get to our history lesson on our two evil knights. And I am assured that everything I'm about to say is 100% historically accurate.
Ooh, I want to say it. I have a degree in history, so this is 100% true.
Yeah, this is your. I mean, granted, you are supposed to rewrite the narrative, and if you have to rewrite the narrative, rewrite it to this, because this is more awesome.
Oh yeah, this totally went down. Verified facts. So Queen Elizabeth I, who was kind of an ugly broad, she had a rivalry with the beautiful 23-year-old Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots. These two knights, Tarkus and Bruford, were her vassals, Queen Mary's vassals. And even the strongest man seeks respite not in romance, but in something larger. Something like Mary's vision of the world. But then Mary's husband, Lord Darnley, died. And Elizabeth I said Mary did it. She killed him. So she was tried and imprisoned. So these two knights, they just sort of let loose and caused all kinds of trouble for Miss Elizabeth, who's clearly the villain of the piece at this point.
Yeah. And
she bargains for these two to turn themselves in, and she will spare Mary's life.
I say she won't murderate Mary, but, I guess yours works too.
So she's like, they turn themselves in, they're about to be executed, and they're like, what?
They have no regrets, yes.
No regrets, everything's great, because Mary's safe. And as the executioner holds up his axe, he's like, oh, by the way, guys, Mary's already dead. See that corpse over there? That's her. Lol.
Yeah, I have lol.
And they
Mary was
call
already
down
killed.
upon
Y'all
everyone.
Are duped and stupid.
They call down all the curses upon everyone as the axe falls. The end. And then it turns out Dio has been telling us these stories because he loves stories like this.
Yep. He's like, this
and
story
the
is
knights
awesome.
have come back to destroy the world that they've cursed.
He calls them revenants here, which I'm pretty sure is incorrect because no bears were involved in that story.
Wow.
See this topical humor? Because
I get it.
Revenant, because there's a bear.
Thank you.
Either way, these two knights have sworn fealty to Dio so they can enact their curse and fill the world with death and hatred, basically because they're both Anakin Skywalker at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, after that story that basically has nothing to do with the plot of the entire episode or anything else going forward. Well, I mean, we calls them like we see them.
Jojo is still caught in this hair, and so he yells out Scarlet Overdrive and punches his own arm, which has the hair on it, and the hair explodes.
And everybody is like, oh yeah, Jojo's our protagonist. He can do everything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, no, that's reasonable. I think the exact quotes are something like, oh, he has so much riding on his shoulders. He has the burden of the past and the revenge for his father and the hope for the future in Erina. But basically, he's our protagonist, so he can do everything because he's awesome. So,
oh, yeah.
Knight Bishi loves this and is like, oh, yeah, we have a worthy foe. And then another zombie, a random zombie from out of nowhere, pounces on Jojo.
He's like, I'm going to gnaw on your cartilage.
Yeah, he has some pretty sweet smack talk. You know, eating your jugulars, grinding your veins to make my bread, you know, standard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Bishi Knight just steps out of nowhere and completely frags this guy.
He rips off his nose.
Yeah. And he says, this is no place for pawns. Because they're knights.
Get out.
They're knights, you see. They're knights, so no pawns are necessary.
It's chess now.
Yeah, it's chess.
Oh, we also had some queens earlier, and Dio's the king now.
Yeah, see. So. It all makes sense.
Uh-huh. Who's the bishop? Speedwagon.
Speedwagon.
The bishop.
Speedwagon's the bishop. Or Speedwagon. Yeah, well, the Bishi Knight comes on to take Jojo on himself. He asks Dio for permission to kill him himself, and Dio's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And Jojo says the sweetest line ever as he's like, Bishonen Knight shows up.
I learned all about this guy in school, and now he's coming to kill me. How about that?
I have written here, bizarre, Jojo. Bizarre indeed.
It could be bizarre.
You could word it as bizarre. So the Bishonen Knight launches himself at Jojo, tucking in both his arms and his legs. Jojo has no idea what to do. Is he going to strike with his left arm? Is he going to strike with his right arm? Or maybe he'll kick. Meanwhile, the Bishonen Knight just pulls out his sword with his hair.
Yeah, he needs to think laterally and think maybe he'll swing his sword with his hair.
Which is what he does. And to Jojo's credit, he does think about that at the last possible minute and dodges it. To which Bishi Knight... Yeah. To which Bishi Knight...
He sort of gets it in the face.
Yeah. And dives backwards into a lake/pond/the river from earlier. Oh, well. To which Bishi Knight says, oh, you must have a keen eye if you can dodge my hair's danse macabre. Like, he's named this move? Did he have prehensile hair before he was a zombie?
He did.
Oh, I mean,
also, he made it up just now.
That's also legit. I'd be happy if he made it up just now. So yeah, Jojo falls back into the pond/river/lake. Bishi Knight dives in after him. Master Z is at a loss here, because he's like, dude, Hammond Energy uses breathing, and you can't breathe underwater, so Jojo is in a die pinchy. I don't think he actually says die pinchy, but that's the idea we get. We do have a little scene where our pals Speedwagon and Master Z go to try and help out Jojo. But Caracas/Beefy Knight just is like, no, sir. Dio, watching this from up above, is like, you guys got it covered. I'm gonna go zombify everybody in the town to start a zombie apocalypse later.
Yeah, see you guys later.
In the most supervillain move ever, he leaves it to his cronies because there's no way his cronies could ever fail, and he goes off to turn everybody else into zombies.
Yeah.
To his credit, he is actually going to go do something while his lackeys finish the job, and not just, like, go to his space castle and drink wine.
And laugh about it.
Yeah, which is normally what supervillains do. He actually has, like, a plan B to go do while this is happening. And as far as plan Bs go, zombie apocalypses are pretty high up there.
He's apparently fleshed out, pardon the pun, his plan from last time, which, if you'll recall, had step 1, recruit some dudes.
Yeah, some evil guys.
And then step 2, take over a world.
Yeah, he
Since
does
then,
have
he's
some more steps now.
apparently he's put in step 1.5, which is zombify village.
Yeah, start zombie apocalypse. I'm not sure where make 2 ex-knights of Mary Queen of Scots into zombies to kill Jojo is, but I mean, they're somewhere in there.
He improvises. He's a
That's
man
fair.
that sees opportunities and takes them.
He plays by the seat of his pants.
Yes, when they're not on fire.
When his pants are not on fire. Is that because he's a liar? Or because he's burnt to death in Joestar Mansion?
Both.
I wonder where King Vegeta is. I think we see him again later.
Probably back at home scrubbing the floors because they really need
Probably.
scrubbed.
Yeah, I suppose. Oh, well. Dio piffs off back to under the river /lake / pond.
Yeah, Bishi zombie, Bishi Knight is all like, you know what? I know that you're going to use your Hammond powers and that requires breathing and you can't breathe. So I'm going to be a noble zombie and not use my sword.
Yeah.
So he sheathes it.
He says this must be a duel between heroes. So he sheathes his sword because he wants to play as fair as an evil, super-powered, blood-sucking zombie can be, I guess.
And then the narrator, who's very helpful, says, a normal man sensing death by drowning would swim for the surface, but not Jojo.
Not Jojo.
And I have in parentheses, you mean a smart person.
You mean a normal... You mean a normal, not crazy person would decide that air is pretty important.
Yeah. Jojo turns around and swims down.
While remembering the sage words of Papa Joestar, and fondly remembering a story about his sweet dog that was totally murdered by that evil dude Dio, Danny.
Basically, when you're confronted with a situation, like, do the opposite of what you'd normally do.
It's true.
He's like, well, in that case,
I do that in my everyday life. If I'm hungry, instead of getting food, I don't get food.
Yeah.
If I want to go to work, I decide that that would be what the normal thing to do would be, so then I don't.
You remember the words of Papa Joestar?
I remember the Papa Joestar, do the opposite of whatever you want to do at all times.
Makes sense. It's good advice.
Yeah.
But now we get a geology lesson from Jojo.
Which, again, I'm sure is 100% pure facts.
Definitely. I took a class in college once. Remembering that this is a coal town.
Yeah.
He swims to the bottom of the river. And he says there should be air trapped under the rocks because this is a coal town, which meant that the surface of the riverbed used to be above water.
Yeah, so it probably sank and trapped air under rocks.
Yes.
Normally you would think that this would be something a crazy person would think and in no way would actually happen. But yeah, no, of course.
Jojo happens to find under a rock.
Yeah, water.
An air. And he takes a big old breath.
So, even if the science doesn't check out, here we go. Who cares? Here it is. And Jojo says, with just one breath, my blood's beat has returned. I mean, I know when I hold my breath, my heart stops beating. So I assume that's what happened with Jojo.
I assume it's the same for everybody. Then he cries out his attack, which is now something different. It's turquoise blue overdrive.
Well, now, please keep in mind that before this, Jojo does say that Hammond travels better underwater for reasons.
He did say that, yes.
Now,
so this will work better underwater for some reason.
Now, here's the deal. I do know that Hammond energy travels in waves, right? Like, we know that. And water is great at propagating waves.
I found out Hammond translates as ripple energy. So the idea is it's like a wave, just like that's why he says it's like sunlight. It's
okay. See, now that's reasonable. If it's a wave, waves propagate real well over water. But light goes slower in water. That's why, like, it bends when you put a straw in water. It gets that bend effect. So that would argue that Hammond would travel worse in water, not better.
Although that would explain the blue glow we get at the end.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Because Cherkanov radiation,
is actually blue, not green. But like maybe he's
or it
confusing...
could just be because he called it turquoise blue overdrive.
Well, maybe he called it turquoise blue overdrive because he knew that was going to give off blue light because radiation.
Yeah.
Maybe he was confused with sound energy because sound goes faster in water than air.
I mean, I could buy that Jojo is confused about how things work.
we could see that Jojo might be confused about what science is.
Yeah, he launches his attack, and then we get to be continued. So
Then we get roundabout. So on one side, we end before we get to a really sweet fight. But on the plus side, roundabout starts.
We do, and it's a different spot in roundabout. It's when they're coming out of the bridge towards the end of the song. So.
For those of you following along at home, this has been Roundabout Watch 2016.
Well, I really like roundabout. I just don't like the bridge. It's a dumb bridge.
No, that's fair. Oh, I like the bridge a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
The really slow part in the middle?
Yeah, I like it. It's like the rug in Big Lebowski. It really ties the song together.
It has the feeling of a lot of other Yes songs.
I mean, that's fair.
I think I told you I heard Roundabout, and since my wife has all the albums on CD, I listened to Fragile.
Sure.
Expecting,
supposed to be really good
there's gonna be a lot of other Roundabout-ish songs, and there aren't. Turns out.
Yeah, well, you take what you can get. So how did you feel about JoJo 5? It's not as good as JoJo 4.
Yeah, that's basically my thing.
It's set up for some sweet fight tomorrow, I think. Next week, I guess.
Yeah. It's really hard to follow up episode 4.
Where Jack the Ripper pops out of a horse.
Yeah. But, you have those moments and you got to bring it back down so you can have another one of those moments.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, it can't stay at a constant level. It can't be monkeys smoking and creating boats all the time.
So we did have some good times in this episode, though. We had some bro power with Speedwagon thawing basically anything Speedwagon related.
Yeah. Oh.
So yeah, there's that's JoJo 5.
That is JoJo 5. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1, Phantom 1. What is next week's JoJo's name?
Next week is Tomorrow's Courage.
Tomorrow's Courage.
Yep.
That's a nonsensical name, but I guess it makes sense.
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you'd like to get more info on anything we talked about, check out the show notes or the website at aniki.fm. You can also get in touch with us to ask questions, make comments, or tell us how wrong we are. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Aniki Podcast. You can also email us at podcast@aniki.fm. And if you have a minute, please leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. We really appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time on Aniki.